First of all, I want to thank Bob and Liz, Amy Green, and the entire team here at CNP. What an amazing week we have had. It's been spectacular. It's been so great to see so many old friends and make so many new friends and feel so energized and inspired to go out and think about what we each can do to advance America for the next 250 years. Tonight I'll begin with a story, perhaps, of the hardest day of my life. My wife and I stood outside a lawyer's office, mustering the courage to go in. And we stood on a sidewalk, staring, saying little, despair in our hearts. My retail sporting goods business was essentially insolvent. At the same time, my once promising public internet access business was soon to close its doors when the dot-com bubble burst in April of 2000. When we sat down with the lawyer, we did not encounter a kind person helping us to navigate our financial and emotional crisis. We met a man immune to the frailties of the human soul, hardened and hard. After all, he was a lawyer. He said, "You are done. The best thing for you to do is declare bankruptcy and get on with your life." It went downhill from there. We walked out and stood once again on that sidewalk. All of my dreams, my hopes, my aspirations were on the knife's edge of failure. And then a gust of wind took me out of my despair, and I felt warm breath upon myself, on my face, because God pulled me close to Him and said, "Go forward. Get on with your life." I looked around the city that I loved. I looked around the busy streets all around us at the people walking hurriedly to some important engagement. I saw vibrancy. I saw builders. I saw resilience. And once again, I felt a sense of opportunity rather than despair. I took a deep breath. I turned to my wife and I said, "No way. I am not declaring bankruptcy. I will find a way out of this." It took years. Great sacrifice, a little bit of luck, but eventually I rebuilt that business into a thriving enterprise. And 6 years after that day on the sidewalk, I sold it. It was a brutal experience, and that brutality, as you can tell, stays with me to this day. When I am asked why I so deeply care about America's entrepreneurs and why I want to build a hall of fame to celebrate them, I think of all the entrepreneurs today and in the past, who stood on their own version of that sidewalk, wondering if they were going to make it. Somewhere not far from here, right now, there are men and women in their own version of that sidewalk, wondering if they're going to make it, struggling to make the next payroll, and wondering if they can find the formula for success that has been so elusive so far. You know, everyone respects the struggling entrepreneur. We love that story of the struggle. But for some in this country today, God forbid you make it to the penthouse, and now you are an enemy of the people. When some who struggle do make it to the penthouse and become the next Ken Griffin, Michael Dell, Elon Musk, Sarah Blakely, and Spanx, okay, some of them become villains, with the exception of Sarah Blakely. But those who they do villainize are shamed and attacked. They are not paying their fair share. They didn't earn their success. They are rapacious capitalists exploiting the poor and working class. They are billionaires to be vilified and blamed for every calamity in America. This is the argument of all too many who want to destroy the American miracle. And they are winning too many hearts and too many minds every day. We must fight. All of us must fight. All of America must fight for what the founders bequeathed us. This fight is to rebuild an American consensus that our nation's founding was and is noble, that free enterprise and capitalism are noble, that American entrepreneurs, when struggling to make payroll or rising to the penthouse, are noble. The Hall of Giants will make and win these arguments. But how did we get here to have to make them? There was once an American consensus on the nobility of our founding, on capitalism, on free enterprise, and on the entrepreneurs who drive those systems. How did we lose it? Well, too many of us quit teaching, showing, and sharing the story of American exceptionalism. Meanwhile, the forces that oppose us never stopped working to destroy that consensus. When we think about the American dream, we think of it as at its heart is our American exceptionalism. But those dreams are only possible because of the American miracle. The American miracle means that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter whether black, brown, or white, no matter rich or poor, no matter what makes you unique in this world, in America, if you are willing to work and go all in with our American way of life, your version of the American dream is within reach. Even more importantly, while not every dream is achieved, the miracle is that the journey in pursuit of that dream is its own fulfilling reward. It is those millions of journeys that have created the prosperity of the human spirit we have enjoyed for 250 years. Think about it, 250 years, a long time to us, but a drop of time in history. Earlier, I spoke of the brutality of nearly going bankrupt, but that's nothing compared to the brutality of life on Earth prior to 1776. For thousands upon thousands of years, physical and emotional brutality were the norm for most people. Strength and power ruled. The iron fist, the steel sword, the willingness to subjugate and kill. This is how the world worked throughout most of known history. If you were in the ruling class, life was reasonably good by the standards of the time. But if you were powerless, your life depended on submitting to the powerful. People like Genghis Khan, Attila the Hun, Alexander the Great, and Napoleon. The list goes on. It is long. What is striking to me when I did a little reading is that when you research these great conquerors, these conquests are often described as having united the defeated. That is like saying Hitler united Europe in World War II. In the time of Genghis Khan in the 1200s, lifespans were brief and life was brutal. If you made it into your 30s, you were lucky. By the time of Napoleon, little had changed. Same life expectancy, same brutal world, ruled by the mighty over the weak. But the seeds of longer and better lives had been sown. In 1776, America was founded, and The Wealth of Nations was published. Throughout the 18th century, John Locke's writings grew in influence, including among the founders. The concept of natural, or as I think we all prefer, God-given rights, emerged. This concept, which we take for granted at great peril today, was a direct assault on how the world had worked since the beginning of time. Under the old order, your rights were whatever the dictator or king decided to bestow upon you. Not in America. In America, your rights were God-given. No government could take them away. This has changed matters profoundly. For it is the change that fueled the greatest improvement in material, social, cultural, and spiritual prosperity in human history. Once a people realized that they were sovereign, it unleashes hopes and dreams and imaginations in a way the world had never seen. You own the right to the fruits of your labor, not the king, not the dictator, not the petty lord in his castle. Today, all of that is at risk. The Bernie Sanders, the AOCs, the Tom Steyers, the Gavin Newsoms, all of those people of the world today, petty lords all, want to strip us of our God-given rights and make the government sovereign rather than the American people. Let's return for a moment to the three-legged stool of our national greatness, our founding principles, capitalism, and free enterprise. These three systems do not work unless the people are sovereign with unalienable rights. But when the people are truly sovereign, these systems unleash human potential in ways that have lifted more people out of poverty than any program in history. Entrepreneurs, I'll get that in a minute. Entrepreneurs are the makers, the builders, the creators who drive the change that improve our lives every day. Think about the entrepreneurial giants you know and some you may not know. Of course, we're all familiar with Sarah Blakely, some of you more intimately tonight than others. You may have heard of Madam C.J. Walker, the first African-American black millionaire, an incredible story. More recently, some of you may know Cynthia Fisher. There's Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan. The list goes on. Wilbur and Orville Wright, two of my favorites. Of course, the president's favorite entrepreneur, as you should know, is Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's. Come on, people. And of course, his second favorite entrepreneur, Elon Musk. Consider Elon Musk. If he'd been born in the 1200s, he would have been a contemporary of Genghis Khan. The two of them would have been rivals. Now, Khan alone killed roughly 10% of the world's population. Elon Musk in the 1200s, Khan, Musk. Who are you going to bet on? My point is this. The founders didn't only change the world in the way we commonly think about it, a free sovereign people with government subordinate to them. They did something even more remarkable and something rarely spoken of. They created a system that channeled what some would say is so-called toxic masculinity, the strong, the ambitious, the willful, the dominating. They were channeled into productive rather than destructive ends. Think about that change for humanity. In other words, Elon Musk in 1200 would have exercised his gifts through conquest. But today, Elon Musk builds the most advanced electric cars on Earth. He connects the world through internet system based in space. He is literally rewiring damaged brain neurons through Neuralink and restoring people's lives. And kind of most fun of all, practically every day, he catches rocket ships. From brutality to service. From destroying to building, from subjugating the people to serving them. That is what the founding of America changed 250 years ago. And yet today, from AOC declaring that no one can earn $1 billion, to a socialist mayor vilifying Ken Griffin, to socialism being more popular than capitalism among the young, the brutalists are on the march. Violence is in the air. This is happening in part because the dots have become disconnected. We need to reconnect them, to restore in people's minds an understanding of the nobility of our founding of capitalism and free enterprise, and the role the entrepreneur plays in our system. Consider for a moment the virtue of our system. An entrepreneur has an idea. He puts some money in the pot. He raises some more money from family and friends. Now, he may work alone at first, but as soon as he is able, he begins hiring people, offering well-paying and rewarding work. He begins to succeed little by little by doing one singular thing, serving other people well. This is the beauty of our system. It's built on permission and consent with service at its core. The AOCs of the world, the Bernie Sanders, the dictators still around the globe today, there are still too many, as we know, they believe in coercion and submission, comply or be harassed, prosecuted, or worse. We must fight back on every front to retell the American people on the nobility and utility of our founding of capitalism and free enterprise. And that is why we are building the Hall of Giants, to celebrate American entrepreneurs. Remarkably, America has a Hall of Fame for practically everything, from football players to burlesque dancers to my favorite, tow truck drivers. There is none dedicated to the entrepreneurs that built the prosperity we all enjoy. And we call it the Hall of Giants, but it will be unlike any other museum. I kind of always like to describe it as Hollywood meets the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame meets Disney World. We're going to reconnect the dots. Look around you right now in this room. The clothing you are wearing, the food we just ate, the chairs you are sitting in, the comfortable bed you will be sleeping in sooner than you know tonight. Every single tangible thing in your life exists because somewhere upstream An entrepreneur decided to start a business and create something that makes our lives better. It really is a miracle, and it is a uniquely American miracle. To bring that miracle to life and reconnect people to America's virtue, we are building an innovative, dynamic campus offering cutting-edge combination of education and entertainment, complemented by amusement park-like rides, immersive virtual experiences, and an extensive development district designed to drive attendance, engagement, and yes, revenue. I'll share one ride concept with you that I think is kind of fun, our time-traveling transportation experience. You board in 1776 on a buckboard wagon with all the bumps and smells and unpleasantries that were raw at that time. From there, you will travel decade by decade along America's journey to a steamship, then a locomotive, then an automobile, then an airplane, and then a rocket ship, and you'll disembark on Mars. Along the way, you meet the entrepreneurs who shrunk time and space and made our lives go smoother and faster. We plan to create additional experiences showing how home life, work life, or social lives have been transformed by the limitless imaginations and indomitable will of America's great entrepreneurs, including the famous, the unknown, and the forgotten. We live in an attention economy. Portraits and plaques won't cut it anymore. That is why we're not building a boring old museum. Our permanent campus will be a vibrant community with housing, offices, retail, and an entertainment district surrounding the Hall of Giants. This entire campus will be a celebration of America and the entrepreneurs who have made our lives better. Now, my goal is that when someone leaves the Hall of Giants, they will see everything in their lives with a fresh perspective. They will recognize that every physical object, service, and experience exists because an entrepreneur took a risk. They signed that lease. They made that payroll when it would have been easier to quit rather than keep going. I want them to see entrepreneurs the way they see Taylor Swift or Claude Monet or Chris Pratt, as creators who enrich our lives every day. As we move forward through the groundbreaking in 2030, we're going to change how the world thinks about America's founders, our very first entrepreneurs, and all who have followed since. We will rebuild an American consensus and respect and reverence for our country, our entrepreneurs, and most importantly, our nobility as a nation. American greatness is not a birthright. Our 21st century destiny is not preordained. It must be earned by every generation. Not since the progressive era has our virtue as a nation and our founding been under such relentless assault. We cannot let the destroyers prevail. Now, here is right. I am no theologian, but Jesus taught that loving God with all your heart, soul, and mind was the core commandment. And right alongside it, as expressed by the Apostle Paul, was the commandment to love your neighbor as yourself. When you think about it, our founding, free enterprise, and capitalism are the necessary ingredients to live up to that commandment. America is noble because we created the first system in which success, and to a large degree happiness, was predicated on serving our neighbors well. When you serve others, or as Paul said, when you love your neighbors, the world is a better place. Jesus taught that loving others is the right approach. Capitalism and free enterprise teaches that serving others is the right approach. These are two sides of the same coin, but the world does not think of it that way. I do, and I hope you will from now on. 26 years ago, God spoke to me on that sidewalk. I will be forever grateful. He sent me on a journey of redemption, creating and building, and that journey continues with the Hall of Giants. But the question stands, will American greatness endure through the 21st century? The founders were our first entrepreneurs. Today, we have a generation of entrepreneurs led by Elon Musk, Ken Griffin, Michael Dell, and many others in the private sector. And we have amazing policy and political entrepreneurs, such as President Trump and his cabinet, and many others, and many of you in this room, also working to make our next 250 years amazing. I believe all of you and all of our American entrepreneurs will rise to this moment and ensure that American greatness lasts for another 250 years. And with God's help, let's make it so. Thank you.